All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another Wheel Tapping. I'm your host, Chris Whiphand, and I am going to be joined by Mr. Tony Fryer. How are we doing today, Tony?
Hey, good morning, sir. Doing fantastic.
It is a morning. Football kind of changes our routines a little bit, so we can get recordings out of the way before football starts, because for some people that's important, right?
I got to see the Broncos get their butts whipped again.
Yeah, well, I don't know much, so I will refrain from speaking as if I do. So we decided that we were going to do our top five, and this is kind of inspired by two things. We kind of talked about it a few times. You and I did it when we did Game All Night back in the day, and recently the guys over at Derailed actually did one with themselves and a Patreon, and I'm like, you know what, good time to kind of say all the shows, so now I'm gonna throw the challenge out to train shuffling to say, now you guys need to do your top five, and then that way we're all kind of starting at zero.
Nice.
And that'd be cool, you and I just talking about our top five together. But I thought it actually would be, you suggested that we should bring Nick in, so welcome Nick Nailon. How are you doing, Nick?
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing awesome. So Nick is, if you're familiar with the show, and if you're watching, I kind of hope you are, we do Monday night game nights occasionally. Well, we do them all the time. We stream them occasionally, and we have a couple rules. Like, we will not try and learn a game online. We try to play something we know, which actually is a direct result of Nick's desire to, I'd say not look stupid, but I make that happen anyway, so the end result's null. And
I think we fail in that regard.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So at the top of the show, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to introduce Nick here in a second, so that you can kind of get to know his taste and what he likes. Nick is also like Ground Zero #1 patron. I believe he actually kind of started pitching it long before we became friends. He was doing that. So welcome. So another
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is awesome. So another cool thing is we got some merch. So I made some shirts. I had requests. Oh, let me reach over here. Good TV, right? So the front is the standard logo we always wear, but on the back, I put our year one map. So this is kind of all the games we cover.
Nice.
So that's it's available. I'll put a link in the description if you're watching this. If not, you can just I have that on Teespring, so that it has friendly European shipping, which is a nice thing. And got the really soft one I like, and then we got the standard heavy duty cotton that Nick likes. So you got some.
Much appreciated, bro.
Yeah, so if you want to show off, it's just year one. It's all the titles that we have on year one. The spelling mistake has been corrected, so there's that. It's more a typo than anything else, because unfortunately my fingers move faster than my brain.
Yes.
Did you misspell XX?
Yeah, I did. Totally. I left out the extra X for savings. So we're going to sit here and we're going to kind of run through what we consider to be our top five. But we have one rule, and that is that we are not going to necessarily rank these in from best to worst, because to be honest with you, my favorite game, I don't think I will play again until we get in person. It's not really one that I know that I want to play online, but it might work. I don't know. But, we tend to enjoy something with a little snap and a little quicker. So it's also kind of warped what my top five is now versus what it was pre-COVID, because a lot of our gaming has showed up online. So I think it's a great time to revisit it, because it's influenced by a lot of things. We are going to, let's get to know Nick a little bit. Tony, what do you think? I mean, you and I know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty well at this point. So why don't we kind of introduce him and kind of like let him know what's what. So do you have some questions for us today? I know you love the questions, and they're good ones. I like it. So
let's see, Nick, let's just start off with a little background. We met like going on 2 years ago, right? Is that right?
November of 2018. Yeah.
That's right. And you were looking for somebody to play these games with, because I'm not sure. I can't even remember now. I don't know if you had played any of them yet.
No, I started buying them. I think I owned 5, 6, 7, something like that, and was playing them, laying them out on the table in front of me and kind of looking at them. But I hadn't found a group to play with yet, and made a connection with somebody at a local gaming store in Denver, which led me to you.
That's right. Cool.
So that's funny, because you got to meet Nick then just a few months before you and I got to hang out.
That's right.
Interesting.
And like Nick's first game was 1826, right? And I kind of, that's one of the 2 examples in my mind. I know another person whose first game was 1861. You can start with any game. Right?
Yeah. You really can.
Yeah, you threw. I'd ask you to tell me what game we were playing ahead of time so I could look at the rules, and you didn't get around to it, so I just showed up the next morning. And, hey, here's 1820. That was awesome. Oops. I loved it.
Well, I think that's an interesting point you bring up, Tony, because yes, anything can be a teaching game, and I think I try to get somebody into board gaming. I try to pick a game that's going to resonate with them, have a theme that they like or mechanics that I think they'll enjoy. Like, I'm not going to give a take that per, game to somebody who is a Care Bear. Like, you tailor it. So I think the same thing exists, right? If somebody's very mechanical and likes mergers and likes to really push buttons on things, like 61's great. And if you like somebody who maybe France is just a great historical setting that they just understand inside and out, then 26 is great. So if they don't care about the Eastern Seaboard, don't start with Chesapeake. But if they love France, go with 26. It makes a lot of sense.
So Nick, first question for you, buddy, is because you'd mentioned you bought a handful of games before ever getting to try them. And then, once you've tried them, of course, the love affair you thought would be there was. What is it about 18XX games that compelled you to, A, buy some before you got into them, and then love them once you got into them?
So I started playing crayon rail games 25 plus years ago, and really loved that, and eventually got into Euro games. And I'd always heard that 18XX was the pinnacle, was the next level of gaming. The fact that there's no randomness, the level of complexity, that's what really drew me in, what I really wanted to experience. And man, I have not been disappointed at all.
Awesome. Right on.
Cool. Let's see, Nick, as a result of us meeting and playing a bunch of games together, even though you live, an hour and a half away, it's not that far.
Yeah. Nothing.
We get together often in non-pandemic times. I just want to say, I feel like over these 2 years, you've become, one of my favorite people, one of my best friends. And I'm really appreciative of that connection that got made. And I love you, buddy. That's all I want to say. So,
awesome, I appreciate that, brother. And I feel the same way.
It's out there for everybody now.
You and your lovely other half, Robin, have gone out of your way to make me feel welcome every time I've been there. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's, I'm thinking we get into some other questions here that are kind of 18XX related. I'll ask them to Nick.
Sweet.
But then to Chris, and then back to myself. I have just a handful of here. We'll get into this flow of things and start talking about train games. And
I like it.
And then we'll get into the different phases. This is still the initial auction, after all.
Yes. We still must maintain phase structure during
phase structure.
Even though this is a completely rewritten title, we're still following our rigid structure.
That's right. 18XX games are procedural, so are we. So no,
exactly.
So Nick, name a game that you like but you would like it a lot more if just one thing was different, what would that one thing be in what game?
Yeah, I think for me that's probably a little obscure, right? 1836. I really love the setting, even though I'm a wild badger, right? I'm originally from Ohio, and most of my family is from Ohio, and so I love the map, and but the tile set, if we could just add, which we have added personally, a little home rule, if we could just add a few extra tiles to it, I think it is such a better game, and I love it already. But just a few more tiles, and it's so much better.
Nice, good choice. I concur.
Oh,
Master Whitpan, what about you? Same question.
Oh, this is tough because that's picking a fault with something you love is truly hard. I also feel like I come from a point where I don't necessarily know enough to be able to really give a good definitive answer. But if I could change,
that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you do know enough.
Yeah. I believe it was when we played 24. I would just like to see maybe another mine or two added. I just think that there could be a little more kind of upfront, that I would like some more options. I kind of feel like sometimes when you play with different people, it can kind of be like you're going all this company, you're going all that company, and then it just kind of can feel like, oh, well, I did A, I'm going to do B, I'm going to do C. So I don't know if adding an extra, maybe a mine or two might help that. But, aside from the other things like change some auctions and, move some privates around, like all that stuff, I could probably find one little thing in every single game that, I would like to change. But I always feel like that lower left corner when we play 24 in the Southwest just dies a long and slow death, and I'd love to see that revitalized. I guess that's all I got. What about you, sir? What would you like?
First of all, let me just comment on that because I like that notion. Like I suggested to Nick kind of half-heartedly the other day, and then I actually did some work on it. But like 1837 is all the companies, all the mines. There's 10 mines, right?
Okay.
But it's far too long of a game, right?
Right.
So like, what if we played 1837 with the 1824 train deck? I don't know. So that might push things along with exporting.
It needs something like right smack in that middle, just with that little extra meat. I don't know. And it could also be a result of player count, because generally we've played that at 3 and 4 exclusively. So I've never played it with higher, and maybe that would change things because, it might force people to say, hey, now that's rich enough in a 5-player game to open that zone up. Sure. So I don't know if it's kind of one of those things that, the map kind of shrinks based on the amount of people who play it. So that's why I say I don't know that I know enough, but I'll play that variant when you build it.
Yes, you will. My game is 1849 because I really like 1849 quite a bit. But
Sicily, right?
The one thing, that bothers me is that last share being a double.
Ooh.
Every time we play, it feels like Euro gaminess, as people are like, I'm not buying the 8th share so that I open up the 9th and 10th share for you, and just people are like avoiding I don't know, it just kind of bugs me. Like I just think it would be better for my personal taste, I guess, if those were just 2 single shares. Just play the game, right?
I love the idea, right? I love that idea that you can get a free share, right? But mechanically, no, I completely agree. It kind of works out to be where if you just happen to be sitting to the left of the person who, pulled the trigger, you're going to do whatever it takes to get that share. You're going to sell down, you're going to sell your own company, whatever you need to do to buy that share because it's so valuable. So I don't know, maybe there's,
let's face it, if that
do we speak Italian? Get that designer on?
Probably pretty good, right? All right, next question.
Yes.
Name an 18XX game you didn't enjoy and why? Because today's about what we are enjoying, but what about one we didn't enjoy? Big Nick.
So talk about continuity. 1849 would be at the top of my list. I would throw another game out there, but the hate would be too much if I threw it out there. So 1849, I just I'm not a fan of the volcano. Really not a fan of that double share, as you mentioned. And I have a general aversion to the regular and narrow gauge track games. So 49, it's a great game for most people. I know I'm way in the minority. Just didn't click for me.
Yeah, but that's not to say you don't like events, because you don't seem to mind like the 82 events and the one we just had in Tennessee. Like it didn't seem to like pop up as a thing like, oh, I hate the Civil War. Well, I mean, who likes it? Well, right. that guy does, but that's a different story. But it's so I don't think it's necessarily that. I think what sucks is that you have to build it from zero. Right, and so it's going to take you 3 turns to rebuild one of the most valuable cities on the board. That's fair. That's completely fair.
You mentioned the event in 1882, the NWR, right? There's even after that happens, there's still incentive for you to build back there with getting paid for those track lays that doesn't exist in 49. So I think that's mitigated a little.
Right, and it only destroys yellow track. So as bad as it is, you could still lay 2, so you can at least get your moneymaker probably back in a turn. If you strategically place a green or 2, it's a null event. It just means you have to stall 1 turn, not start back up. And then it's not only building it and losing revenue, it's the fact that now that's your build, and then your upgrades your build, and then your upgrades are like, I get it. It's just kind of kills that corner of the map late in the game. I just avoid it. Well, so if you're playing with me, I'm just going to avoid it.
Just don't go over there.
Yeah. So this is tough. This could garner some of the hate. But the one I played that I did not like was 30. And this is more because it's situational than it is that it was the game itself. To be honest, I have not played it since. So I have 2 contenders for this. Let me finish this one, and I'll bring up my runner-up and why. So this was the first game somebody put in front of me to play, and it just felt like I was the little boy in the dike, just plugging holes and trying to keep money, in companies and things like that. And it was 6 hours long. And I was buying like permanent trains out of pocket. And so I had like nothing. And people are just running diesels over the map, and I'm like clueless as to what's really happening. All I know is I am not making all this money, and I didn't understand divestment, because back then it was you had to no one, and when you're new, when you teach somebody new how to play, help them out, invest in their companies a little bit, especially if it because nothing's worse than feeling like the first probably 10 games of 18XX that I played, nobody would buy my companies because I didn't know what I was doing. Why would they? And it kind of reverberated through our group, and it really held me back from the love that I now have. Like, it just took me a lot longer. So I played that, and it was so rough. I'm like, and then it was years before I played again, probably a good 2 years. So that's my, I would argue it's not the game, it's the experience that I don't like. But I need another crack at it because I enjoy the variants. Close second would be 18 USA, but that's just because the whole 17 stock and everything else is just, it melts my brain, and I need to. I struggle when it's full cap, with 5 companies running in the entire game. I struggle with good stock market skills, and then you add in something like 17, and I just feel like I'm brand spanking new all over again. So again, it's more me feeling completely dumb and inadequate to the task, I guess is the best way to put it. You, sir.
Chris, I think I don't enjoy 30 at lower player counts,
Right.
but at 5 and 6, it's a whole different experience. I actually do like it at the higher player.
Yeah. And I went and bought it. So, and it's been relatively recently. So it's something I know, like I've played enough variants. I know it'll be fine. But yeah, I just, no, it just didn't, that experience was the bad one.
My game's 18 Africa.
Okay.
And there are things I like about it, right? Like the map, the scope of the map, and you know how the resources work and the coastal cities. I really like how the train deck works too. You know how you can trade in, you know, and everything. But like, dudes, the whole like random dealing of shares and you know, oh, let me buy a share from the stock market. So let me flip one over. Do I want to buy that one? No. Let me put it on this pile over here because the player to my left will definitely want to buy that one. You know, they're like, just hated every second of all that. Makes me wonder if 18 Africa could have been a candidate for what game would you like if you could change one thing and just get rid of all that random crapola and just play the game normally, right? Because like I said, I love the scope and I love, you know, it's big, right? You can lay a bunch of yellow track and you know, the trains are fun, you know, but like so the rest of that game ain't very fun for me.
That has been sitting on the computer in the to build folder for quite a while, and I just read it and I'm just like, you know, I don't want to build games because I enjoy it, but I'm like, I'll never get that played. The people I play with are way too deterministic as well to even want to give it a try. So yeah, hearing that just kind of makes me think more of the same.
More of the same.
More of the same.
All right, next question here is, what's your favorite 18XX experience or event or session or happening or circumstance, or insert adjective here? Big Nick.
So I'll cheat and give you one very briefly. Tracks. The first and only Tracks was an awesome experience. My first 18X.
Thanks, COVID.
X, I was fortunate enough to be included in Tracks Narrow Gauge, where several of us got together up in the mountains in Colorado and had an amazing time for parts of 4 days playing games. Great companionship, great gaming, great location. I mean, everything about it was awesome, and that was an amazing experience. As far as a game itself, I was one of my first, I think, 15 games I ever played was 1880. It was a 6-player game of 1880 at your house, and I have never laughed so much playing a game in my life. It was such a blast. It was just, I got my behind handed to me, and I'm sure I finished 5th or 6th, but it was so much fun.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. It's and you know what? The company names don't help themselves at all, and they lend to the comedy of 80 a lot.
HKR is the hooker.
And that was it. That was exactly it, right? And it was very juvenile, and that was my first time to see Tony and his friends in a different light. You know, before that it had been 1826,
right.
These stoic experiences, and then 1880 comes out. You've got the jugs and the hooker, and I mean, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, I'm 12 inside.
I think we all are, and I'm totally okay with that.
Chris, what about you, bud?
Well, I kind of have like 1.5. So my half was the first game I ever won was on my brand new copy of 46, and we were playing it, and I did some half holds at the end and was able to buy the big trains and run away with the win. And it was kind of one of the first wins I ever had. So like that was just, kind of felt awesome to be able to, make something out of nothing, because I was way behind, but then just like some strategic half holds allowed me to buy some trains and run away, which was, I remember that to this day. I remember sitting on the table getting splinters, and it was great. But my actual favorite experience, honestly, Tony, it's playing 22 MRS with you and Sweater Mike. when I was out in Colorado. That was a very fun game. It was getting to meet, two people that I enjoyed hearing about and talking to. And we'd never gamed before. So it was like one of the first games we played. And, I just remember, I think I had a 6 train in one of the minors, and I pulled out the win, and Mike was doing crazy shenanigans, and we put a lot of junk on him and made him force buy a lot of stuff. Like it was just one of those games where, kind of like you say, it was a little raucous and a little funny, and just they were gracious and let me win. So all those things kind of wrapped up in
Awesome, bud.
Yeah.
Your visit was great, man. I can't wait for another one.
Amen, and hopefully with less altitude sickness this time.
Hey, just stop going skiing with Sweater Mike.
Oh, that's a tough call. I don't know if I can do that.
Mine is, Nick alluded to it and talked about it, was Trax narrow gauge, right?
Nice.
So, last year, right, was our first Trax, and it was, a great success. We bought a small venue because who knows, how many people were going to come. We ended up selling it out. We had to tell people, no, I hate that stuff, right? But it was, a great success. Everyone had a great time and everything. And I was really looking forward to the next Trax, right? It was going to be even bigger, and over 60 people instead of over 40 people, blah blah blah. And then the pandemic struck, right? And that took Trax away. It took lots of things away from lots of people. And I do consider myself fortunate because, the worst 2 things that happened to me during the pandemic are Trax got canceled and I lost my job. But when I lost my job, I found an even better one. So it was fantastic. And I was already planning to quit that crap job anyway. Right. And so I feel very fortunate, right, to say that, that losing Trax is what is something that bummed me out because of the pandemic. But and when the pandemic got under control here in Colorado, and me and Mike and Nick and John rented a house in the mountains to have our little own Trax narrow gauge, right? Very narrow, it's only the 4 of us. Nick and John not only are great friends of Mike and Mike and I are Trax, right? Last year and this year, Nick and John were, heavily involved in subsidizing it by, not with cash necessarily, but they would make things and buy things and bring things as door prizes, right? So they were big contributors to Trax. And so we wanted to say thanks to those guys. And so we got this house up in the mountains, and Trax subsidized a portion of the house, and just the 4 of us hung out. Now our wives were supposed to go too, but one wife fell out of being able to go, which caused another wife to go, well, I don't want to go. Then the other, so it was perfect because it was just us 4 guys. And so we were at the house and we played games for a bunch of days. We each took turns cooking dinner. There was lots of bourbon and scotch and just beautiful scenery. So right now, to date, that is my favorite 18XX, event/experience.
There you go. Yep. And if I could have driven there, I would have been there. I would have made it an uncomfortable 5, but
that'd have been okay.
Not hopping on a plane right now. Sorry, that's just not happening.
No, you would have had to do a little quarantine. You have to play 1862 solo mode in another room at first. Yeah. So, no. Last question. What 18XX game is on your list to play that you haven't been able to play yet, Nick?
Ooh, that's interesting. Game on my list. I haven't been. Well, okay. So I will throw out 1817. I had the opportunity to learn 1817 online async. I played twice async, and it was the most miserable experience of my life. It took 6 months, and it was horrible. But I'm told by everybody that that's not the way to learn 1817, and that it, in fact, is a great game. And so I want to play it on the table. so that I can put my past experiences to bed and hopefully enjoy it like
right.
everybody else does.
That's fair.
Cool.
So let's see. For me, it's I've played a lot and I've got to play a lot of things I like. But right now, I think Ireland. But part of that's because I know this guy and his multi-gauge distaste kind of lives there. I did order it because I'm like, I want to play it. I don't care.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Right? So I'm kind of really excited for that. And I would throw GB as kind of like a 0.5 because kind of like Nick, I've played it async online and I dug what happened. And I won that one. So it kind of, I'm like, I need to dissect how that happened because, you know, I don't believe I actually win things. So I think they're handed to me. They're gifted to me. I don't feel like I win them. So I want another crack at that. But ultimately, Ireland. And I'm excited because I know I will. It's just when.
Yes.
I told Scott I was going to buy 2 copies of Ireland and put all the regular track in one and all the narrow gauge in the other one, send him back the narrow gauge track, and just play it with regular track.
Nice.
I think Ireland's implementation of narrow gauge is brilliant because you don't run it, you don't have special trains. It just adds value to cities. Nick, it's a subject for another time. I'm wondering what your distaste is. Maybe it's just because the tile set, because of that, is so restrictive. But
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to dive into that psychology at some point.
Sounds good. My game is 1817. I have never played 1817. I have played 18 USA numerous times, but have never played its parent, if you will, 1817. And I really would like to just play 1817 at least once. So.
All right, Tony. So great questions. I love those. Made me think, man. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's still new, and I still have so much to go because there's only 200 18XX games, and only so many hours in a day.
That segment was so fun. I wish we had 4 more questions.
I know, right? But we kind of have the big one. So
Okay.
Our yellow phase, we're going to bring that up next here. So let me come on over, click some buttons, and boom, we're going into the yellow phase. So we're going to lead off with Tony. This is going to be your top 5 games. Now,
Yes.
like we said at the beginning of the show, this doesn't necessarily have to be 5 to 1. This is just, what we're enjoying playing, what we're enjoying playing right now, which, if once in-person gaming becomes a thing again, I bet you I know my list might shift when that time comes. So take it with a grain of salt and the time that this is written in. So let's get into it. So Tony, what are your 5 favorite 18XX?
Okay, in somewhat alphanumeric order or something like that. 'Cause I don't rank. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to run through these relatively quickly, right?
Sure.
The first one on my list is 18PA, and I really enjoy this game because the track lays can be mean, right? There's not a lot of upgrades. The whole minor company, those companies, they're very important to the game. They mean a lot to how the game gets played. I love the ability to, when you convert to a 10-share company, to buy as many shares as you can afford, and irrespective of any limits. So it's kind of like you get to run a company in the yellow strategy for some number of ORs, 1 or 2 ORs, depending on when you grow up.
Right.
And that's particularly cool at the end of a game when you never have to pay back or sell those, certificates that you're over various limits on. So I really think it's a cool game, and I think it's one that, maybe we need to invite David back on and just talk about PA and cover it. Number 2 on my list is 1824. And, I just love jostling for position in the national companies and the 2 train decks. And, the goods times variance, blah blah blah. It's going back to something we said earlier. If 1824 was as big as 1837, it'd be even more amazing. Right? So,
Right.
1826 is another one of my favorites. I do like the geography. I think it's a fantastic operational game about getting the right trains and the right companies at the right times. You got the SNCF, the Belge. What's the Belge gonna what's gonna happen with the Belge today? All that kind of good stuff.
Battle of the Belge.
The Belge. The Battle of the Belge. The fourth game on my list is 1830, and when I say 1830, I do mean the game itself. I do like the game itself, but just also to a large degree, what 1830 has meant to the genre, right? Because its rules, they're so simple. Like, so many deep decisions can come from just a very basic set of rules. I mean, that's not a complicated game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has led to so many fantastic 1830 derivatives, in that family tree there. So the greatness of 1830 is, I think, solidified right there. And then number 5 on my list is 1846. Another one I just totally have fun playing. It's so, I don't know, it just feels different from so many other games because, the soft resting trains, and I think it's a fun operational map. And I had my first 18XX win in 1846.
that tends to color things, doesn't it?
I think it's a smarter game, and there's more things going on than some of my friends think and other people think, and I believe that our conversation with Mr. Lehman validates that. Like, this is a solid game, and it should be one that's also the father of a series of games too, just like 30. But so there's my top 5, guys.
If you were to ask me, like, one of my all-time favorite moments in my 18XX life was probably that conversation. That was just amazing, and it was just so concise and just very good. Awesome. That's a robust list, Tony. I appreciate it, and there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah,
absolutely. So cool. And I think we're going to hold honorable mentions and runners up to the end, because this is a list that's hard to make for a lot of people, and coming up with 10 is a little easier, and then whittling it down is a little harder. So we at least want to throw those out. So hold on to those, Tony. We're going to come back to them. Awesome. All right. So that brings us to the green phase. Nick, you are now green. So you represent the entirety of the green phase. So what are your top 5 favorite games?
Well, so I'll stick with the in no particular order phase, except as your little title there suggested, and it's no secret to anybody who's watched on Monday nights that 1824 is my favorite 18XX game. I love that game. I love everything about that game. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite thing is the trains. It does trains in a way that nobody else does trains. I love the goods trains. I'll play the game in the original format. I love playing the goods times variant, and I cannot wait to play 1837 with the 1824 rules. That's all I'm going to do. It is an amazing game. I've had no bad experiences playing 1824. 5-player, it pushes it a little bit for me, but at 4-player, man, that's a sweet spot for that game, and it is so good.
Absolutely.
1826 is on my list. As Tony said, it was my first experience. It was also my second 18XX game at Tony's house. So the first 2 games I ever played were 1826. So it's got a little special place for me because of that. I think the state railways and the drama that surrounds forming them and who's going to go in, who's not going to go in. We talked for 2 years about how the first one never forms. And boom, Chris and I made it happen.
Yep.
Unintentionally, but we made it happen. And totally changed the game. And so I think that, and then along with operating the Belge. I love to operate the Belge. So those are all things that attract me to that particular one.
Sure.
1870. I love 1870. I like the map. I like the geography. That's part of it. I admit for 1870, but it does things that I had never seen in a game before, and maybe they'd been around for a while. And I just never saw them. But I never played a game with destinations before. I love the ability to price protect. You don't see that in a lot of games. The ability to buy back and reissue shares. I mean, there's just so many things about 1870 that were different for me the first time I played it, and I played it at tracks, which I think added to how much I enjoyed it. With our good friend and unfortunate Bears fan, Randall. We had a great time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and I think that you kind of hit on something. A lot of I can't say the same thing for board games as much as I can say for 18XX, but it's so situational with your group, the day you're playing, how it's going, and how exciting it is. That plays such a huge part in what makes a favorite. It really does. Especially you're spending 3 to 5 hours with somebody. I hope you like them.
Absolutely. No, and I can't speak for you gentlemen, but I've had the opposite experience on one occasion. And yeah, being with friends. I mean, and to me, go back to your question in the last round, Tony, about what is it that what do you find compelling about these games? And what I found compelling originally was one thing. What I find that draws me back to them now is this. It's this conversation, the interaction, especially around the table. But we've been able to make a wonderful transition, in my opinion, to Zoom, and to still have the interaction. It's one of the things. I mean, it sounds weird to say this, but it's one of the great things to come out of the COVID situation is that we've discovered that we can play online with friends who are far away and still have a wonderful time. So that's a digression, but it's important, I think.
Absolutely. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I kind of
no.
I find
awesome.
that very interesting.
Number 4 is 18 Chesapeake. And the thing I love about Chesapeake is that I like it at every player count I've played it. I think it works really well as a 2-player game. It's interesting the way stock goes into the market, and you can trash somebody else's stock by buying it, just by buying it. Some of my favorite gaming experiences have been 5 and 6 player Chesapeake games. Scott sells it as or promotes it a lot as an introductory game for people, and it does really well at that. But I think there's a whole lot of complexity to that game, and it plays super great at 5 and 6 players, and doesn't always end in bankruptcy like a lot of 5 and 6 player games do. And so there's just nothing I don't enjoy.
Cool.
And finally, and this is probably a terrible game to have on this list because there have been like 6 or 7 people in the world who ever played it, but I can't help it. It's just such a great game. Sweater Mike's put out a couple of years ago. He put out 18EB, and he has a follow-up game to that, 18EB Lazar. And I don't know I'm not a D&D guy. I don't know anything about the world. I don't know anything about the theme. I don't care anything about that. But I love this game, which tells you how much I love it because the theme is meaningless. Mines that are amazing and different than anything I've seen before. Airships, and people, 18XX purists will say airships. Well, yeah, no, airships. Trust me, they're amazing. And the way that you grow up companies and the 2 races or groups that you have to merge together, the tight restriction of the map. Again, this will mean nothing to anybody listening to this, but when you have a chance to play it, jump at it. It is an amazing game. We played it 4 times up at Trax Narrow Gauge. I can't wait to get on the table. Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, I had to go hunting for a picture for that one. That was not easy to find, I have to say. Yeah. Maybe we can kind of talk Mike into. Is that maybe a potential Trax pack release PMP at some point? No,
it's not, because it's just his own personal project kind of a thing, because the IP of of Lazar is owned by
Oh, okay.
whoever, Wizards of the Coast or something, right? So
Gotcha. Fair enough. Okay.
He's an avid D&D player, and they play in that realm, and that realm has trains. There are trains in this D&D realm, and that's what spawned all this stuff. So like, it'll never be published, right?
So the only place to play it will be it'll be at a Trax event, because he will be there.
Buy a ticket to Trax.
Absolutely. Another reason to come see us.
There you go, and play Lazar. Interesting. So good stuff. I guess that kind of leaves me. So so we're going on to. I'm the brown phase. I'm or russet, if you're so inclined, which is completely fine.
I am. And by the way, now that you've said that, for the next episode, I expect brown phase to be a russet color, not instead of brown. So.
And then I have to change. That's a lot of branding redo. But unfortunately, a lot of people just might think, why are they talking about potatoes? Like, what's the point? So my list is, one thing that we decided not to do was to interrupt each other. Well, we did, but and say like, hey, that's on my list and that's on my list. There is a little crossover, but surprisingly, we did not. But what we did cross over on was Chesapeake. Chesapeake's on my top 5, and that's just because for everything that Nick said, I love it at every player count. And again, situationally, this was the first 18XX Tony and I played. First time, we played it 2-player. Fell in love with it right then. I went home and print and played it from 0. Like, I redrew everything to make a playable copy of this because I missed the initial pre-orders until I got my copy. So at one point, I think I had 4 copies in this house. Between my print, between the pre-print from a friend, and then I ended up getting 2 ordered copies because I forgot I ordered the first one. So yeah.
I had to make somebody happy with a gift, right?
It wasn't
copy.
It wasn't free, but the price was a gift.
No, I mean, you can gift that extra copy now to one of your friends.
Exactly. So it's but I love it. And you know what? There's also that thing where for me, it's a more local one because it kind of is the area I grew up in. Has Philadelphia, has Allentown is a dit, which is right near my house. And, I love the Chesapeake Bay. So it just kind of, it hits a lot of things for me. So it kind of weaseled its way into my list from the last time we did this. Let's see. Next up, 22 makes an appearance on my list. Specifically, I love MRS because I enjoy the tighter map and the tighter time frame of it. That isn't to say I don't like the full version, but I always feel like when I play the full version, I get stuck with the MR up in the north. I'm like, what am I doing up here? I never
MR's in the Midlands.
I know, but it feels like it runs north, and I always, sometimes 22 is almost so big that I feel like where the minor companies open can sometimes get in the way of a good game. Because if they open and they come out in a very weird way and nothing is helpful to people, then they're not going to move and it's going to stall and slow down. And MRS kind of negates that for me and allows it to hop along and be a little faster. And I enjoy the pacing of it a lot more. So 22, and then again, MRS specifically. All right, so I got to go here. Page 2. 1849. Actually, I love some of the things. I love avoiding Sicily, but I love watching it happen. I love watching that. I love watching the eruption, and but generally speaking, I stay away from it. But there's just a lot of different stuff happening, and I like the play space. It's the first game. It's one of the only dual gauge games that I've actually played. So I feel like there's a lot to explore. I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the reprint. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good time. So 49. Let's see. 67 is going to make its way next. And I do like 67 slightly more than its twin cousin 61. And that's really just because I like the way the Canadian National runs. I like that the bookkeeping is a lot easier. And even when we play 61, that's the way we play it. So, you know, and I like that so they kind of live together. You know, I think you can't talk about one without talking about the other. But, you know, I slightly lean more towards 67 at the moment, but that could change because the miners in Moscow are, you know, that battle's fun too. So 61's just as good. So
Nice.
kind of like Nick, it's
Good
no
list.
big, yeah, it's no big secret though what number one is. And that's 80, and that's, yeah, I say we don't number these, but yeah, 80 is the one I will never turn down, and I will always play, even for a longer game. I love the weird stuff. I love the stock rounds. I love the par pricing and the getting into slots. Like I love everything about that. It's one of the few that I enjoy the stock and the financial part of it as much as I enjoy the tile laying. And that's usually rare for me because usually I'm operations is everything. But this one I like both, which is, you know, that doesn't happen for me. So,
Nice.
you know,
That's
80.
a fantastic game.
Oh, so good, so good. But I love it, and I'd like to play it at a bigger count because I think I've only ever played it up to 5. So I'd like to. Tony claims it's a very fast game at 6, and I'm curious to see what that looks like. So
I think faster at 6 than at 5 and 4 for sure.
interesting. So that's my top 5. So that was good, right?
Yes, those
Yeah.
were great lists.
Yeah,
guys.
Awesome. I love the diversity too. Like, I know that we play a lot of stuff together, but there's, yeah.
Well, so you see people occasionally either on Slack or on Twitter or Facebook, whatever. They'll throw up, "Hey, these are my top 10 favorite games," and I love the fact that almost never is there any overlap between my top favorite games. I mean, and to me, that's the strength of the hobby, right?
Yeah.
It shows that
Yeah.
there are so many great games that we can have independently great top 10 lists that don't even come close to matching. So I love that.
Right.
Yeah. So what? Chesapeake 24 and 26.
Yeah, that
made two of our lists, but no game made all 3, right?
no,
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is, and I'm kind of be surprised because when Tony and I did this initially, Chessie was on his, not on mine, at that moment. But that was because I hadn't played it, and he had been knee deep in almost developing it. Like you were definitely in that. Well, you were in that forefront of let's make a few suggestions here, kind of in that
Wow. No,
first
I don't-
wave.
I just feel like I played it a lot. That's all.
It's all good.
That's my most played game. For sure.
I didn't help do anything except
No?
play the game.
Okay.
No.
I think you were a prophet of the game, right? You were out
absolutely.
there telling people
Yeah.
how great it was, and that helped spread the word. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason why that was the first show we ever did, right?
That's right.
Cool. Also, it helps to start out your show with a game that people can actually get their hands on. That's yeah. We could start out with like GB or Isle of Wight and just kind of yeah you'll never get that, or if you do, take out a half mortgage. Awesome. So that wraps up. We're going to move into the gray phase now, which is let's go through and give our runners up. So Tony, what do you got, man? Like what are your runners up? What made the cut but totally didn't make the cut?
Okay. Somewhat rapid fire. Here we go. 18 EB Lazar that Nick talked about, you know, because like, hey, you can run trains, ships, and airships in the same company even, so it's really
Right.
cool. The map is super fun. 18 USA because, you know, it's 1817 with all kinds of pre-game variability, you know, and that kind of stuff. And I've played it numerous times and do enjoy it, even though I suck horribly at it. 1822 medium regional scenario because, you know, I love 1822. I love 1822 MRS more just because I get all the 1822 feels in just a more complex box. Maybe it's a little bit edgier of a game because time is short and you can't risk so many things that you could risk in 22.
Right.
61/67 because hello mergers, you know, I like all that stuff. And you know, getting a 3 train into your miners is like one of those fun things to work on and challenge. And lastly, 18 GB because I think it's 1860s good rules and not 1860s weird stuff, plus the restrictive track. So it's a super fun game. Also a good 2-player game. There's 2-player scenarios in there.
All right. Awesome. So you know, Nick, that's going to put you next. What made the cut but totally didn't make the cut?
Yeah, so the first is one of Tony's games, 18 Los Angeles, which I love 1846. It was hard to leave off on my list. I think 18 Los Angeles does 1846 better.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the type map. I love the type map, the east, west, north, south bonuses. I mean, it is a really great game, a great implementation of 46. And like you said, 46 should be the father of a series of games like 30. Yeah. Well, there you go. There's one right there.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a Winsome-esque version, right? Like just short and volatile. So.
Well, it is, and to me, it's just the best. 18 PA had a lot of great experiences. Played 18 PA. I also love the map. I love the way you can buy those shares. Chris. I was winning a game of 18 PA, and then Mr. Whitpan blew up his share limit in the last round and just whizzed past me. I think that's a great element that's not common in a lot of games.
Yeah, it's hard to do it and make it pay off.
Yeah.
Oh, but you did it well, my friend. Number 3 is 1880. As I mentioned previously, one of my favorite one game experience. It was a game of 1880 at Tony's house with 6 players. I almost don't want to play it at less than 6 players anymore. I just so much enjoyed that experience.
I will tell you, that's why it's not on my runners-up list, because if you got 3 or 4 and you want to play 1880, I'd rather do something else these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely.
So I agree.
I mean, I start playing it at 4. And 4 and 5, I like 5 better than 4 because it's a big map and it takes a long time to get built out with 4. But with 5, it feels like, again, the North isn't dead. The North isn't usually dead, but definitely the West Coast, the West Side can be completely ignored. So, yeah. Now I want to try it with 6. Let's get 3 more friends. Let's make it happen.
Number 4 on that list is 1883 Orient Express. So this is not the recently published 1883. This is Tony's version of 1883, and it's I love the there's so many things about this game. It's an 1830 variant game, but it's got the Vlad. Yeah, it's got the presidents who do different things, which is something I'd never seen in any other game, and the yellow president, the brown president. I mean, it is such a cool experience. That was one of the Trax games, wasn't it?
Yeah,
still available.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then 5th, a game which is probably it's 5th on this list, but it's probably would have been number 5-ish on my top 5 list, was 1882. it has rocketed up to the top 5 most played games on my list. I think having it available online so easily makes a huge difference. It's a great game. Again, I like it at low player counts. I played it at 2 and 3. 5 and 6 player, especially 6 player, 1882.
It's just brutal.
But it is. There's almost nothing I enjoy more. There's almost nothing I enjoy more in an 18XX game than making sure all 4 of those straight city tiles are gone.
Oh yeah.
So somebody can't open it. I love that about this game.
I love the warning. Yeah, and the warning that comes when you're about to open a late company. They're like, by the way, you can't lay your city, and you're like, come on, please upgrade to green, somebody, please.
Yeah, the limited tile is really what makes that game. It's brilliant.
It would make my list. Probably, like, it was right on the outskirts, but I want to play it in person because I just haven't had that chance yet, and I don't know, I really want to. Like, I feel like I need to. So that's right on the edge for me as well. All right, so my runners up, 46 did wind up on my runners up because I do love it. Our conversation kind of puts so many things in perspective. I'm not going to be somebody who deep dives on it, but when you break it out, I'm going to lose usually, and I'm going to have a fun time doing it. Because it's one of those that I never get things synced up, and then next thing I know, I'm toast, and I'm like, Chicago what? 18 Mechs, which made my top 5 the first time through, does kind of sink down a little bit, but with the hard rust 4s and the little variant, I love this game. And it's a great little 3-player game, quick school night game. I still enjoy it. The NDM is a lot of fun to play with. It's solid. 89, I like it. I know, but it's just, for you give me a 30 game, this was the 30 style game that I enjoy. And again, it's mostly because I like being able to play it. It's quick. And I like the feel that you can experiment with the system a little bit, but you don't go crazy. And the diesel offboards, I think, are kind of cool because it's saying you want to get a diesel. And I'd like to see that happen in more games because I think it's
agree with that.
Right. I think it's kind of fun to kind of say, like, no, you don't just want a permanent train. You want to maybe take that extra step to go from your 5 and to get it to a diesel. Like, I like that the game kind of helps propel you to that. So I do enjoy it, and that's essentially why. And then the last two kind of we've already talked about a lot. 24, wow, that's just fun. I love the goods time. I love the goods trains, figuring that out, trying to get the combination to work right that you start out with. And I like that it's not a flat out auction. It's just a buy these things and then snake draft, right? So you can actually you can make some strategic decisions saying, okay, well, I'm last, I have nothing, but I can own 2 shares of the orange starting company. So you can still make some strategic decisions later in the turn order. And then I think that's really good. And for everything that Nick said and a little bit more, 26 kind of rounds out my extra list. This is probably one, I like it. I've had a blast every time, and Paris is a knife fight all the time. And I always seem to have one really good company and one that I question the ownership of because it's usually crud. Because, I buy the Po or I buy the West, and I just can't get tracked to. I'm making this huge loop around Paris to get north because track has been horrible. So that's what I have, gentlemen. That was lists. Yeah, I think so too. I like the I like the variety we have, even though we all seem to enjoy similar like operational games pretty consistently. I think it also kind of shows that we're more than that, right? Like we're more than just playing just operational games. We like some stock markets. We like some, you know, if 17 made it, right? Like in the USA variant for Tony. So, and one of my arch nemesis is 17. It's just, man, it's just brutal. Those loans.
We'll get you in it.
Awesome. So cool. Any banter we want to have here? Any general chat? Any chastising? I would argue on my runner-up list, 82 would probably supplant 89 if I had a few extra plays of it in. Maybe an in-person play or two. Just the kind of, all my experience has been just online. So it's
I mean, I think you'll love it. I think you'll end up loving 82.
Yeah.
89, 89 is in my top 10 most played games, but only because it's a game I had easy access to and a game I played a lot when I was first learning. I would very happily never play 89 again, only because Chesapeake has taken its place for me as a teaching game. It's a great way to expose people to the hobby. Although, as Tony said earlier, with 26 and me learning on 26, you can learn. The right person can learn on any.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think as time kind of goes, like I don't have a ton of plays of 89 in yet. So for me, it's still, I don't want to say new space, but it's it's under a dozen play in that range. So, I don't have that negative thing going yet. But I'm sure it's there. It's just waiting to happen.
It's just waiting.
If we redid this in a year, I don't suspect it would be there. Just because my library of games is growing. But, I still think what's interesting here is like there's a little something for everybody, right? Like if you're a new player on these lists, there's a lot in there. But if you're a longtime player looking for something new, I think, there's 24, 25 games in that list total that we didn't, unique games. If I had those 25 in my library, I'd be very happy.
God.
There were a couple that was very hard to leave. They were very hard to leave off for me. 67, hard for me to leave off because I really love that game. And Rhineland, 18 Rhineland. Rhineland is another game I very much enjoy. But I just couldn't squeeze it in. But I would never turn down a play of that.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's a pyramid, right? So it's okay. I can maybe separate my favorite 5, but then we kept it like a column. What's the next 5? But really, the next layer is really like what's the next 10, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the next, 15 or something like that, right? Since we made it a column, like I had some tough decisions in the next 5 as well, right?
Yeah, because there's still one or two you might leave off or add in.
Yeah,
that's completely fair.
Rhineland, 82. I mean, you guys called out a bunch of them, so
yeah,
it's good stuff.
That's cool, awesome. Thanks. You know what? I think this is our list mid-COVID. So, like I said, I think it's heavily influenced by how much I'm playing. It's hard to play some of these online without giving yourself an afternoon. So it's hard to get them in, but that also gives rise to the 3-hour game, right?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why 22 didn't make either of my lists. Is I really enjoy 22. I like Tony. I enjoy the MRS version better, but it is not a game to play online. I think because of the enormity and complexity of the spreadsheet. I've played it async once or twice maybe online, and the spreadsheet is just so big. It doesn't lend itself to a Zoom game.
You said, "Hey, this is our list," and that made me think. Like, If you're out there watching this on YouTube, put your top 5 in the comments, will you?
Yeah, and if let us know what are your top 5, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, find the YouTube channel. Yeah, put it in there. I'm really curious to see what other people like, because tastes change. And if you're new, put a little bit about your experience in there, because I'm curious what somebody who's been doing this 10 years like Tony versus 2 years like Nick, and I'm Goldilocks right in the middle here, because I've probably been doing this in earnest for about 5 or 6. So it's I'm curious to see where timing kind of plays into people's decision making.
Well, favorites can change, and but
and they should, right?
Even though you put 1889 on your runner-up list, it's okay. In general, there's no wrong answers.
No, and it's funny to watch, things kind of shift and fall. Because 49 wasn't even on there last time. I struggled to like 49 the first time I played it, but I kind of like, that 2-share fight at the end is kind of, it's fun when you're the person in charge of it. So I kind of, I feel like I kind of got something a little extra. It tickles that little part of your brain, makes you feel smart, and I kind of like those feelings that I get out of 49. And so that's a good list. I think that's solid.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Absolutely. So we were going to invite Kelly, but he would just say, if it's one I win, then it's all the games. So
but that'd be all the games.
All the games. All the lists.
We do have to have Kelly on.
I think we shall. Yeah. I think Kelly will make it on. If you get to catch our Monday night streams, we just put up Board 18 or games and 18xx.games, and we just play and have fun and rib each other. Okay, usually it's Kelly who wins. Big surprise.
Yes.
And it's I kind of feel bad introducing him to the group sometimes, because I'm kind of like, sorry guys. But
we introduced you to the person that's going to win the game.
That's right.
What's really interesting though is that we get to see different ways of doing it, and I don't say he ever wins the same way twice. Like I can't sit there and go, well, you won because of X. It's usually because of a culmination of little things, which I think is great, because you can't just duplicate what he did and win. It just doesn't work.
Well, one of the things I love about playing with different people, Kelly included, is the ability to learn from how they play. Exactly. Watch how they strategize. Watch how they win in a way you never would have thought of even trying, much less winning that way. And I've learned a lot from playing with you guys, and certainly from playing with Kelly. So
yeah, so excited. This was good. This was a lot of fun. I think don't worry, next month we're going to get back to our normal shenanigans and cover something. I think we have something in the tank that sounds pretty cool. I think you might want to tune in for that, and a couple feelers out for some other stuff. But if there's anything you guys would like covered, let us know as well, so that we can cover it. And if you're new to the show and you happen to catch this because you are the person who loves top 10 lists, I would encourage you to check out our podcast. We have a lot of fun. We get designers on a lot of the time for the games. That was kind of something that we just said, oh, hey, I think it was Mark Voyer, we can get the designer on. And then we're like, I like having the designer on. It's a lot of fun. So we have some really good episodes with them. I highly encourage you to check them out and, have some fun. And of course, if you want a year one shirt with the train map.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. Cool, huh?
That's cool, man.
I dig it.
Very nice.
So fun stuff. So gentlemen,
yes, sir.
We're going to be playing in a day or two. So we have to figure that out. And to the rest of you, enjoy your month, have some fun, and get some candy, because we're coming up on that time soon, so that you can give it out to nobody who shows up the door, and eat it all yourself like I do. That's all I do.
Yeah. Trick-or-treating in the pandemic. We'll have to see how that goes.
Can you get like one of those long grabbers and you just kind of hand them out? and just do that. No,
Put the
I
ball on your
decided
court.
I wanted to be the house that gave out the big candy bars, and then nobody came the first 2 years we were here, so I stopped. But I still buy the candy bars. I just eat them all myself. Fair enough.
Right on.
All right. Well, I hope you guys found this fun and enjoyable. And be sure to check out our other shows and stay tuned the first of every month for the next episode of the show. And we will see you next time on The Wheel Tapping. Wheel Tapping is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your next experience with a great Game Topper or Matt from Game Toppers. Check them out at GameToppersLLC.com. A quick thank you to all the patrons and people who support the show by sharing it. Thank you for your support, and we appreciate everything you do to keep the show going.
Where we all
Bring something
to the table.
pull up a chair.